another match point.
Incredible third set here.
They changed their strategy a little bit and they fought their way back in.
There it is, game, set, and match.
Hello and welcome to the 2024-25 APTA Tour. We're live from the Medinah Country Club in Medinah, Illinois, bringing you the Medinah Cup with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership and our tour presenting sponsors, Volley and Corian. Tournament support has been provided by the following local sponsors: Baird Private Wealth Management, CDM Software Solutions, Dilly Life, Jimmy John Sandwiches. I could use one of those right now. Monaco Mechanical, RT Nelson and Associates, LLC, Sport Court Midwest, Two Hand Red Brewing Company, and Viking Athletics. I'm Patty Hogan along with Dave Broderick, bringing you women's semifinal action between Ellie Halbauer and Jill Jackson up against Sydney Berens and Audrey Koopsen-Boucquemont. Welcome, Dave.
Patty, how are you? It's great to be here for this women's semifinal match. I'm sorry. It's, yes, women's semifinal match. And as we're looking at the court, you have on the far side of the court in the light blue tank top, you have Jill Jackson. And next to her is Sydney Berens in the black shirt. And on the near side, you have, well, the court just kind of switched where it looks like we're looking at Ellie Halbauer to the right. And we can't really see the player on the left.
Sure, we'll wait till we get everybody, Dave, for you.
All right, and then we down at the bottom of the screen on the left, that looks like it's Audrey Boucquemont in the light blue shirt as well. The chair umpire will be Rob Labune for this match. Matches will be 2 out of 3 sets, regular scoring. And it looks like should be an entertaining match, Patty.
Yeah, this is some of Midwest's finest players, Dave, on display out here. And it's a real treat with Ellie Halbauer. If everybody remembers last year's Nationals, made it to the finals with Gabby Nicolescu. Halbauer and Jackson have played before. They played 2 seasons ago, and they've rejoined. They are good friends on and off the court and love that aspect of it and are going to team up and give it a shot. Ellie is just one of the game's rising stars, Dave. Loves her two-handed backhand. Really just her game went from, off the charts last year. By the time they got to Boston Nationals, they peaked at the right time, and this will be a fun season to see what Ellie can do with Jill. They're great friends, as we said. They have a lot of fun on the court and off the court, and they're really looking to keep it nice and light out there, be really supportive with each other, and they want to make a go. But Ellie is a former pro tennis player, Dave, and Jill Jackson played tennis, University of Kentucky, 4 kids. She's a nurse. She's tough. They're going to be exciting to watch. On the other side, we have the other Midwestern team here with Sydney Berens. She's the taller one of the 2 players on the court. She and Audrey are great friends off the court. Both of them teach tennis. Sydney teaches at the Evanston Golf Club nearby, and Audrey teaches at she played tennis actually at Grand Valley State in Michigan, Dave, and she teaches paddle North Shore Club. Yeah, they're ranked top 12 in the country, Dave. So, we have 2 top 12 teams in the country here. Not a lot of representation from our Northeast teams, but there are so many stops on the APTA Tour that this is the great thing about it. You can be Chicago-centric and not travel too far and get a lot of playing opportunities in this year.
And Patty, this is going to be interesting to see because in their previous matches, it looked like, both teams kind of made it through relatively easily, not spending a whole lot of time on the court. So, this is going to sort of be a good test for both of them, sort of later on in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see, which team gets a quick start and how it turns out.
Dave, who's going to serve first here? Looks like, Berens is going to serve. Dave, is that Jill Jackson over in the deuce court?
Yes, I believe that is Jill Jackson over there. And it looks like Boucquemont and Berens are looking to play that forehand side, the due side of the court early on. I don't know if that's a sun issue or just that's going to be their strategy, but so far it seems like they're hitting a lot of balls over there to Jackson in that due side.
Well, I think, we're all about gathering data on our opponents before we start a match and thinking about it. And, if you have a choice between going to the finalist in last year's women's national championship or her partner, I'd go to her partner.
At least to start out and see how that works.
See, Koopsen, and Berens, Dave. Berens has such a height advantage, and her partner loves that advantage. I kind of know how she feels, and she loves the court coverage that Sydney Berens provides. She can reach almost from one side of the court to the other.
And I think for Halbauer and Jackson, I think Jackson's just going to have to play patient and, try to keep as many balls in play to get Halbauer involved. I don't think, she's can afford to make mistakes early on like we saw in that last forehand that went a little long. So she's going to have to really play patient and solid. This way she can get Halbauer involved.
Yeah, and Jill Jackson, Isabel, James, Miles, and Calvin are all watching, Dave. She's got 4 kids, ages 15 to 7. They can't wait. They're so psyched to see their mom on the live stream. Jill Jackson loves her forehand, Dave. We know that Ellie Halbauer loves her two-handed backhand. So it looks like Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont are dumping the ball down the middle. They're just going to go and make Jackson hit a million balls here. And this is where we'll be really curious to see the experience that Halbauer got from last year and having that great run with Nicolescu to the finals of nationals. Her takeaways from that. She learned so much about positioning from Gabby. Certainly she saw one of the game's best rollers out of the women. And I think that Ellie's a student of the game now and taking note of all those skills. And Dave, I don't know if you've ever been in matches where you're the Waldo. Have you ever been the Waldo?
A couple times I have, believe it or not.
Have you ever not been the Waldo? No, but seriously.
A couple times I haven't.
When you're the Waldo, that's where Jackson is in this match. She's going to see a ton of balls. And like you said, if she can just keep it kind of disciplined, limit her unforced errors in the early going, that, they'll do great. And, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont, they're teaching pros, Dave, so they're going to pick up on the little subtleties out here, and it provides for an intriguing matchup from the Medinah Club in Medinah, Illinois.
And I think if we go back to that last point of the last game, as much as Halbauer is going to want to get involved, she can't afford to miss the first ball that's hit to her, when she gets that opportunity. I think, so for Halbauer and Jackson, I think for different reasons, they're both going to have to be very patient from the baseline when they're playing. And from that first game, it showed that Koopsen-Boucquemont and Berens, they are willing to be patient and just kind of, they've decided they're going to let beat them. And they showed a lot of patience there.
That's Rob LeBoon on top of the foot faults. Dave, you see how Halbauer let that ball drop down, a little roller. I think she witnessed the timing of that shot, playing alongside Niculescu in the 4 tournaments they played last season, and definitely has added that to her arsenal.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that a lot more in the women's game. The rollers going at the nick, even going at the baseline players a little bit to kind of get them to jump out of the way and speed up play a little bit.
Well, you've got to have that variety, and as you can see, it's a beautiful fall day in Medinah, Illinois, and you got to have a lot of weapons. You have to figure out, if you're playing 4 players who are pretty disciplined, you got to limit the unforced errors, like a shot like that, but you got to figure out how to end some points too. Ellie Halbauer serving. That was a great rip coming off that side screen from Berens, Dave. Just put a really high percentage drive off that backside screen right down the middle, and they didn't force a volley error.
And that's a little bit of the risk reward that there is with hitting the roller towards the nick. That if you do catch too much back screen, it can set the baseline team up for a little bit of offense.
Games are 1-1, first set.
Dave Jackson and Halbauer played back in 23. They played nationals, and they lost in the round of 16s to Hanish and Zabori. So they definitely, are a really good team. And I'm looking forward to them taking it to the next level, because I think when you have a benefit like Halbauer had last year of playing with a Niculescu, couple-time national champion, your takeaways are monumental, and really looking forward to see, Halbauer taking her game up another level, and therefore the team of Jackson Halbauer will take their game up another level.
Yeah, and I also think just with a lot of these teams, the depth in the women's game is, it's getting deeper, and all these teams are playing against one another week in and week out. And, I think all of, they're all getting better to, from playing good competition all the time and trying to figure out ways to improve and ways to be competitive in all the matches.
Yeah, and Dave, last year nationals, Boston, where Niculescu Halbauer beat Zabori and Hanish in the semis. That's probably the biggest win that Halbauer had. And, you never go back. Once you have a win over the top-tier players in this game, you never go back. And so that's why I just think her game has huge upside.
And it's just for confidence, and, a win like that, you gain so much experience from it, to your point where it just helps you keep getting better. You're not going to go backwards from a big win like that.
Little return error right there from Halbauer, Dave. She's just got to make a better swing. It was a pretty short serve, and I think she's really got to just stay super aggressive and attack the heck out of that return of serve.
And we see there again, Halbauer gets an opportunity and doesn't execute, doesn't capitalize on it, and has an unforced error. And again, I think her opportunities are going to be limited, so she really has to, I don't want to say be cautious, but she has to make sure she's getting the most out of it, because she's not going to get a lot of opportunities from the looks of the strategy for Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont early on here in the first set.
Yeah, and that's tough, you know, when you're the player on the court. She's clearly the player on the court that has, you know, she's got the gold standard. She's very close to the gold standard. She got the silver at nationals, obviously. And I just think that's where her discipline's going to have to come into it, where she's probably not used to being, you know, frozen out in a sense. And when you play alongside Gabby Nicolescu, no one wants to give Gabby a forehand off the deck. So Halbauer got a ton of great looks playing, you know, on the deuce court with Nicolescu. So here she is at court, little bit of a difference, Dave.
Right, and, you know, to your point, it is different when you're hitting 1 out of every 10, 15 balls as opposed to you're hitting every 15 out of 16 balls. It makes a big difference, and Halbauer is just going to have to stay engaged, stay patient, but, you know, go for her shots when she gets the opportunity. Just she has to do a little bit better executing right now.
Jill Jackson is served.
Good volley there by Ellie Halbauer.
Yeah, Berens has to do more with that shot when she came in on that short ball. Dave, we have a couple matches on board following this match. Do you want to tell us about what's ahead today and tomorrow morning?
Later today, we are going to have men's semifinal action, and then we will follow that up with the women's final later on tonight, which will be starting 6:30 time. And then tomorrow morning, we have the men's final that'll be played tomorrow morning as well to conclude the event.
10 a.m. Central, men's final, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
First break opportunity here we see during the match. And Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont have that advantage right now.
Let's see another shot of that two-handed backhand that Berens likes. Dave, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont live on their two-handed backhand. They love those shots. So that's Berens serving, up 3-1, first set. Women's semifinals action from Medinah, Illinois.
Pat, I also think after the first 4 games, you know, it definitely looks like Berens, Koopsen, Boucquemont have a set plan, and they're following the plan, and it just looks like Halbauer and Jackson are playing paddle. And, you know, I think they just, for Jackson and Halbauer, you know, I think they have to come up with a little bit more of a plan and figure out what they're trying to do to counter Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont and their strategy.
And Dave, you're a big fan of a team having a plan going into a match, because if you have a plan, you can always alter a plan. if you're just hitting the ball without like a real good game plan, hard to make adjustments if things don't go your way.
And I was just about to say that I really like the plan that Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont have, because it's keeping the ball on one side of the court and it's keeping them in position. And there you had a little bit of a mishap on that overhead that went a little wide cross court to Halbauer's forehand, and Halbauer made them pay for it. Like, you see how they're just going straight ahead here. You know, they're not trying to force it, and they're in position. You know, you have, they're both right on the same side of the court, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont, and they're just not getting out of position by hitting the ball side to side that, you know, we sometimes see.
You know, at the net, you definitely see a plan, Dave, where Ellie Halbauer is definitely handling more of the overheads. And I'm kind of liking some of the overhead variety I'm seeing out of her.
Halbauer, Jackson. Berens, Boucquemont lead 3-2, first set.
Patty, serve and volley. Get ready to take your training to the next level with serve and volley, the world's first responsive play drill. Volley's new AI-powered feature mimics real game conditions, tracking your court position and returning every serve, just like the real thing. It's the ultimate way to sharpen your platform tennis skills with targeted practice. Try serve and volley today on the Volley Racket app and experience the future of training. Get Volley today at getvolley.com.
Dave, shout out to our pal Denise Murphy out there. She's going to be one of our announcers joining the action this season. We'll hear her from Chicago Charities for sure. She's healing today from a little procedure, but giving us lots of input and speedy recovery, Denise. Denise did talk about, Dave, how, I don't know, Dave, if you remember Denise Murphy. I've known her over the years, and she's a lovely woman from Chicago area. I met her at a tournament a million years ago. Always super friendly with her, and you know, it's so typical of why these women play the game, and the four women on the court all love playing with, you know, they're playing with a friend on the court, Dave, and it's that camaraderie that makes it extra special for them. And that's what the game of platform tennis gives you as a player. All these, you know, former high-level tennis players, college tennis. Ellie played a pro women's tour, but they get to come out here, compete as adults with their friends, and, you know, that's a wonderful thing.
And I think even amongst all the players on the tour, it's kind of a, you know, everyone's all friends, and, you know, they see each other quite a bit with all the different events going on throughout the year. And, yeah, to your point, that's what kind of makes platform tennis special is, you know, that you see people playing with different partners, and you see players friends with, you know, other players on other teams. So it's really a unique sport where, you know, as much as you're competing against each other, there is a lot of camaraderie within the tours, both on the men and women's side.
Dave, speaking of the tour, I'd like to give a nod to the family of Mary Jane Gillette. Mary Jane and Big Al were parents of Charlotte Gillette, former tour player, and Mary Jane passed recently, and as we speak, they are celebrating her life. And you know, she was someone out of Glens Falls Country Club, Dave, who helped get women's paddle going out there. She was a big fan. I popped in there over the last 15 years, I would say, and always greeted by Big Al and MJ's smiles, and they were so welcoming. And so it's just what makes the sport of platform tennis so extra special, and we're grateful to their involvement in helping to grow platform tennis north of Albany at Glens Falls Country Club in Queensbury, New York.
Our condolences certainly go out to them, and hope everyone is doing well.
40, love.
Dave, I feel like this match, you know, it seems like it's a pick 'em at this point. And then what I always lean toward is the player on the court who's had an outstanding performance above and beyond, and I would say that's still Halbauer, and I still give them a slight nod here. I feel like they're settling in. I think Jackson's settling in a little bit. I love, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont came right out of the box with a great plan, and I just think it's on Halbauer's paddle here, the rest of the way. And it's almost like she's so eager. She's so happy out there, Dave. She's almost like a little too jumpy. One of the things I'll look for will be, she does play, when a ball's driven right at her, she'll play, she's very long-limbed, and she'll play a lot of forehand volleys where a lot of players might just come in and absorb that volley with a backhand volley and hit a less lively kind of volley. And we'll see if, she goes to that, as opposed to kind of keeping the ball to her side and happy to hit a forehand, from her tennis days.
And we heard another footfall call there by chair umpire Rob Labune. But Halbauer holds serve there to make it 3-all in the first set.
And how Halbauer wasn't getting a lot of looks, Dave? Don't you feel like in the last 5 minutes she's gotten a couple more looks, which is a little bit of concern if I'm Berens. I'll be curious. I would totally freeze her out and put this entire match on Jill Jackson. But she's a mom of 4. She'll battle.
That's it. Yeah, you see, again, she's moving forward a little bit more. She's making them make plays. She's putting a little bit of pressure on. I think early goings, I didn't think Halbauer was putting much pressure on them, but it looks like she's starting to move around a little bit and become a little bit more active, and it seems to be helping their team.
Dave, does Halbauer know how good she is?
No, exactly. Again, to your point, it's different when you're the role player, and then when you have to become sort of the offensive-minded player. But if she doesn't, this match could kind of turn the corner for her and let her know that, she can hold her own out there.
Dave, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont played last year, Nationals. They went out in the round of 16s to Delmonico Gebbia. They, Midwesterns, they went out actually to Halbauer Jackson, coincidentally. That's their prior matchup. And it was a 6-2, 6-3 match last year. They played charities last year where they went out to Anika Lalich. I mean, no shame in that. They lost to Medinah last year in this event. In the quarters, they went out to couple-time national champ Liz Cruz, who was playing with B. Lopez last year. So they're definitely on the cusp, Dave, as a team in terms of working their way up. They've gotten themselves top 20, top 12 in the country, let's call it, and to get that steady spot in the top 8 in the country, they're going to have to come up. They're going to have to beat some of the higher level players to earn those ranking points to move their way up.
Yeah, and again, it's just getting tougher in the women's game with the depth of play out there. So, it'll be interesting to see, and they'll have their work cut out for them.
And I think they do have an upside, Dave. But just interestingly, here you have Sydney Berens, who is so much taller on the right side. Like, they've not gotten a switch to get her to the left of the 2 players at the net, where you see Halbauer Jackson, every opportunity they have, they're switching to get Halbauer's variety of overheads and that roller, in the ideal position for them as a team. So I would want to see Berens force that issue a little bit with Koopsen-Boucquemont.
Well, I also think for Berens, she should be looking to get on the left-hand side at the net.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Just because, I don't really love her hitting that backhand overhead more than one time a point. I think they just have to be a little bit more concerned with that, with hitting less backhand overheads because, again, they don't want to give Halbauer opportunities to take advantage and attack.
Right, and I think Koopsen-Boucquemont is, she's used to being in that role on the right side from what I can see when I've seen them play a little bit. And she's a rock solid volleyer. So I kind of love that setup against LA Halbauer coming out of that at court. So Jill Jackson will be serving down 3-4, first set, semifinals from Medinah, Illinois, from the Medinah Cup.
Halbauer Jackson taking a little time here to maybe they see something that they're looking to strategize about and pick on, and maybe they found that key to success that they feel they could exploit right now.
Really good pressure, great plan, good solid return, dipping return from that deuce court, and all of a sudden you look up and see Berens moving in. That's daunting, Dave.
I think she wishes she had that one back lobbing long.
I think she should have moved forward, Dave, as if she was going to make the shot. She kind of, like, in a way, she thought it was going out and kind of hesitated. Sometimes if you make it look like you know it's going to be good, you can entice that person into hitting that ball. I mean, not you, Dave, but most people.
No, I'm letting it bounce because I can't get to it. See back-to-back big returns there from Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont.
Dave, did you ever play Pokemon as a kid?
I did not.
I don't know
didn't
why.
even have trading cards.
30, 40.
Yeah, your parents probably gave them all to Drew.
Yeah.
All right, so another Jill Jackson serve here. They went Aussie or a little bit of an I formation. They seem a little uncertain here about what they want to do at the net in this situation against the Berens return. And Ellie Halbauer got the look she wanted, a two-handed backhand, Dave. She's got that beautiful sweeping stroke. Can't hit it there.
Right, another break point opportunity here for Berens.
I would just both of them stay back here. I don't think Halbauer going up is doing any good right now. But we're watching, Dave. We're not out there playing. Wow, Berens would love that shot back right there.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. They're serving to her forehand. They're giving her that. They know her well. They know she loves the two-handed backhand, and they're avoiding it. Back to deuce. Jill Jackson serving.
Really good point by Berens there. Started all with the two-handed backhand off the back screen and followed it up with a attacking forehand there.
Jill Jackson would love that overhead back. I was surprised they didn't switch. And she hit to Berens' strength, her backhand there. That's where, in this moment of truth, at this key point in the set, we got to dump it up the middle and not give her that two-handed backhand at all. Dave, I have that shot.
Yeah, I think they've they've given away a lot of opportunities to win this game and to be serving for the first set on kind of some routine balls, quite honestly.
Dave, we said how all four of these women are so nice. They're almost too nice. they're re-gifting and gifting a lot in this game. But again, this is the first crucial game, semifinals, APTA Tour. You know, there's some nerves in play here. See, Dave, this is where, like on this overhead right here, I'd like to see Jackson scoot a little bit even to her right, like really block up, maybe give Halbauer the opportunity to come over a little bit more and get her game involved from the baseline.
And I also think for Jackson playing over on the due side there that, you know, she is going to have to hit some attacking shots and, you know, not just keep lobbing the ball up and keeping it in play. And for everybody out there watching, that's a little bit of a problem when the volley queen tries to back up and take the overhead queen's overhead. So we saw Berens and Koopsen.
Well, the player to the right, the player to the right, we refer to that person maybe as the volley queen. And it's a little dangerous when you put that ball. If you don't pound it into that deuce court corner and get two screens out of it, oftentimes it can result in a lob that's really difficult to cover.
Patty, I think to your point, I think you're 100% right, where I just don't think Jackson's serve is hurting them, and Halbauer is kind of a target up at the net. She's not really helping them, their team. You see Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont, how close into the service line they're taking the return. If I were Halbauer, I would just stay back as well.
Yeah, like there's nothing for them to be gained. You know, it's just, I'm curious. Well, here they go, Dave. We got a little different look. And isn't that fascinating? She stays back on the baseline. You have a wide open court. Is that Koopsen-Boucquemont's first return to serve error? With no targets, Dave.
Right, maybe first or second, but hasn't been too many.
But great tactical adjustment right there made, you know, by Halbauer Jackson, and we'll see if it proves to be the difference. Lets him hold serve. See, I want Jackson to switch. I want them to switch places at the net, Dave. I love Halbauer's roller, and then she's got like a little slider overhead that I've seen a little bit.
There we see the roller at the nick. I think right now in the middle of this point for Halbauer and Jackson, I think they just have to keep hitting these patient overheads and good lob there to take back the net.
Jackson got caught over in the ad court. She's typically a deuce court player, I think, and just had that lob error. We're back to deuce, and again, we'll see Jackson still serving here, down 3-4 first set, and Halbauer staying back on the baseline with her and just let Koopsen-Boucquemont just hit the return and take the net, and they're okay with that.
See back-to-back errors from Jackson over in the backhand corner, over on the ad side there.
It was a good roller from Berens. You could see how she set her paddle back, Dave, and just released that wrist and rolled that thing. Let it drop nicely. Interesting. How about it goes back up to the net that time?
On a break point.
She's not afraid of any volley, Dave. She played on the Pro Tour. Started playing pro tennis at age 16. True or false, Dave? She was once ranked as high as 230th in the world.
True.
Do you know who was right ahead of her in the rankings that year?
I do not.
Me neither, Dave. I just wanted to see if you were paying attention. But you can see how deliberate Jackson and Halbauer are right now, Dave. They know this is important, obviously. They know they need this game. And I like how thoughtful they're being about it.
Really good get there by Jackson to keep this point alive.
Advantage, Miss Berens.
Dave, you look at this beautiful background here. Medinah, doesn't it make you want to take out your wedge right over the courts?
Do a little sand wedge over onto the 14th green over there.
That's right. It's so beautiful. What a beautiful backdrop. Dave, is it a sand wedge or would it be a little more? I'm a little worried about those cars.
Yeah, we'd probably have to go with at least maybe a 9-iron.
Okay. All right, we're back. Is this about our 5th deuce, Dave? I know you keep track of things like that.
It's, I want to say it could be our 7th deuce, actually.
Wow.
This game has been going on for quite some time.
Advantage, Miss Jackson.
Jackson snuck it up the line on Koopsen-Boucquemont. That's one of her few volley errors right there. Good shot. Didn't expect it.
And even like with the last sort of setup with Jackson in the backhand side and Halbauer on the forehand, you know, Halbauer loves hitting her backhand, so I don't know if that's a bad setup for them. It's just Jackson from the backhand side, from the ad side. You know, she just, again, has to keep enough balls in play to give Halbauer an opportunity, and a little bit of a close call there. And Patty, do you think whoever wins this game, it's going to give them a little bit of a emotional lift?
Especially if for Jill Jackson, yes, I do. I felt like, you know, they were going after her a little bit early on, and I think she's really done a nice job the last couple of points, and I love all their tactical adjustments here which is great. And, that's what they need. So I think this would be gigantic for them. Because there's got, if there's pressure in a match, Dave, who's it going to be on? It's probably going to be Halbauer Jackson, with Halbauer having been to the finals of nationals last year.
Right. Also being the #1 seeds in the tournament.
Good point.
Advantage, Miss Jackson.
I think it'd be Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont a little deflated, Dave, if they don't come up with a break in this game.
And they've had so many chances. I mean, at the early goings of this game, they were up 15-40.
Yep. Good communication. I like that. We love to see baseline players talking just as much as net players.
Game. Halbauer Jackson. Games are 4-all. First set.
Yeah, you could just feel it right there, Koopsen-Boucquemont. Just her shoulders just dropped. She knew, oh, that was a brutal game to not get. They had so many great looks. But all the credit to Halbauer and Jackson, Dave. They hung in there, and particularly Jill Jackson. Big time game for her. 4-all, first set, semifinals. Medinah Cup in Medinah, Illinois. Berens to serve.
Love.
Dave, so you thought that Jackson needs to she's got to take some offensive looks, you think, to get Halbauer some more looks in that ad court rather than just kind of lob? I was thinking, she's on the defensive, so she's kind of forced into lobbing. I'm wondering about her moving around her lobs a little bit to try to cause a little bit more confusion. There's that high backhand volley that you're not a huge fan of. Over and over. But I would blitz. If I was Jackson or Halbauer, I would just, when you see that coming, she's not winding up. She's not trying to generate any pace with it. She's just going for depth. So that's a blitzable ball for sure.
Yeah, and I think Jackson has to put a little bit of pressure on Berens and Boucquemont, because they can't just let them dump the ball in her corner. There has to be some penalty if they're just going to keep dumping it into like a short ball like that. I mean, she's got to look to take some chances, and you're starting to see Jackson move over further and further into the corner. And I think as long as the ball's going her backhand, she's just going to keep throwing lobs up. And again, I don't think that's going to put any pressure on the other team when they're up at the net. And it's not going to force them to have to do more than what they're doing right now.
So if I understand you, on that play, Jackson snuck over more toward the right side screen, and you saw Halbauer come all the way over and hit a forehand. You think that's good for which team?
Well, I don't think Jackson can get stuck in that corner. I think, she's got to be willing to hit some forehands of her own, because, as much as they want Halbauer hitting the ball, she's also kind of coming a little bit too far out of position and eventually could become vulnerable in her corner as well.
Okay. So the way I see it, I want Jackson in a little bit, like cut the angle off, get inside that baseline as she's going toward the side screen, and then let Ellie, trail the play and just get more looks.
Right. Yeah,
I
and
think
again,
if she gets pinned
and
in her corner really deep in that deuce court, it's not good. But if she
no,
can cheat when she sees Berens reaching up and hitting a high backhand, or Koopsen-Boucquemont back almost to the service line like this, go cut that, go block up the corner and
right, like
block
that
out
ball
the
right
ball.
there. Yeah,
Take time away from Berens, at the net and what they can cover. I just think when she's really deep, I'm not sure she's going to break them down.
and there's the ball they wanted.
Great lob.
Great lob, and it forced Berens to hit the ball over to Halbauer's forehand.
Jackson, they lead by
And they're going to be serving for the first set.
First lead of the match, Dave. Kind of surprised. I think Berens was surprised that she got that two-handed backhand. I don't think she was expecting that look.
And I think even for Jackson, when she's playing over on that deuce side, especially when she's lobbing the ball down the line, I'd like to see her take a step. I don't want her to get in Halbauer's way to hit her forehand, but I think Jackson has to maybe take a step more to the middle of the court to at least pose a threat that she's going to drive a forehand back at either Berens or Koopsen-Boucquemont. I'm a big believer that if you don't put fear into the net team, it's hard to beat them. There's got to be a little bit of fear and, concern as to where they can hit the ball. If you just keep letting them dump the ball into the corner, eventually you're going to miss a shot. Eventually the net team will win the point.
The winner of this match, Dave, will play the winner of the other semifinal, currently underway. I believe it's between Banks and Morgan and Hirsch and Karach. That's Allison Morgan, who we know, who won last week with Charlotte Sikora to kick off the APTA Tour in Montclair 2 weeks ago, teaming up with Banks here in Chicago. And that semifinal, as we said, is underway. And the finals will be tonight, Dave, following the men's semifinals.
Yeah, that final last week was a really good, exciting match to start the 2024-2025 season off at Montclair. 3-setter. They pulled out, Sikora and Morgan.
Morgan Sikora's another tournament win. They're still ranked top 3, number 3 in the country. What's up next, Dave? Where's our next tour stop?
Next stop will be in Baltimore, Maryland, October 26th.
Sam Byron, second year of that event. Coming out party last year for Regalado Salazar. First event they won together. Huge, great opening win for a tournament, and that tournament I heard Sam and his crew did a phenomenal job. Baltimore loves hosting these events, and all the players are looking forward to Baltimore next weekend.
And the draw looks stacked. The draws look loaded with players.
So Halbauer Jackson, after a little bit of a sluggish start here, have a 5-4 lead, up 30-love in this game. Looking to close out the first set.
Patty, and just from watching this point and the last couple of points, if I had to guess, I'm going to tell you Jackson and Halbauer are going to win this first set because it just looks like they're playing a little too tentative. Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont are playing a little bit too tentative, and then we see kind of a little bit of an unforced error there.
40-15.
All right, set point number 2.
So they pulled it out 6-4. We will be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel presented by CSM Media. Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We're here at the Medinah Club in Medinah, Illinois, with women's semifinal action between Halbauer and Jackson versus Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont. I'm Patty Hogan with Dave Broderick, and we just saw interesting first set, ultimately won by Halbauer Jackson. They pulled it out 6-4. They were down early in the set, made some nice little adjustments. Dave, what do you expect in the second set?
Well, I think, to start the match, Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont came out with a really good game plan. They were playing pretty solid. Late in that first set, they made a couple of ill-advised shot choices that I think they're going to have to clean up if they want to come back and win this second set. I think Halbauer and Jackson, the best thing they did is they fought and they battled every point. They knew that the only way they were going to sort of stay in it or be able to get a lead was by cutting down on their unforced errors and just giving them opportunities for good looks. And they did. They kind of they kind of hung around, and, a few poor shot selection choices and a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes allowed Halbauer and Jackson to win that first set. And I think, Patty, it's interesting. We always talk about, we were talking about even in the beginning of the first set, what does Halbauer and Jackson have to do differently to change their game plan? Because Berens, Koopsen, Boucquemont, had the lead for most of the first set. But now when you look at it, it's Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont that are going to be the ones that are going to have to reevaluate and figure out, how to adjust their game plan for this second set.
I think you're right, and it's almost like, I'm not sure it's an adjustment in a game plan per se. I kind of feel like better decision making. I think those little smarties in a wrapper, Dave, we pass them back and forth. I think they're a good thing to have and hand them to your partner. You like them to make a few smarter choices from time to time, and I think that's what you get, more experience as a team, playing against better players, playing the score. Your shot selection has a lot to do with what the score is. I think it should, and I think that they had some missed opportunities in that first set that they would love back, just making a better choice, that's all. I think their game plan's pretty solid. I feel like they're going after Jackson early on, and, but she definitely adjusted her game. And Dave, look who's returning serve in the deuce court here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, are my glasses deceiving? Are my glasses deceiving me? Is that Halbauer over in the forehand side now on the deuce court?
It's a fascinating courtside switch. I mean, I've got to believe Halbauer, no matter what, is much more comfortable in the deuce because that's where she played a lot of tournaments last year with Nicolescu. And look at that. She took the first ball up the middle and had that sweeping two-handed backhand. Looked like a great tactic right there, Dave.
Well, I said that earlier on in the first set, that when Jackson, on a transition play, Jackson was stuck over there on the ad side of the court. And I really didn't mind it because, Halbauer likes hitting that two-handed backhand. So the reality is with Halbauer now on the forehand side, it's actually going to allow her to cover more court and get more involved, which I think was a big part of them winning the first set was Berens and Boucquemont. You know, they let Halbauer get too involved in that the end of the first set. And I think if you're Jackson, the game plan doesn't change. You're just doing it from the other side of the court.
Right.
But truth be told, if you asked me after the first set if Halbauer and Jackson were going to switch sides, I don't think I would have bet anything that they were going to.
I wouldn't have bet a penny. But it's so funny, you know, you feel like a bounce out of Halbauer as she started this game and returning.
No, I was just thinking the same thing, how much more active and energetic she is here. She's, you know, kind of, yeah, there's, as I like to say, there's a little bit of pep in her step.
Really good overhead, Dave, right there. That's what I'm saying, her improved overhead. She's got the roller. We know she can hit the ball flat. And then there, just that little slider, slice kind of an overhead that she can also, she hits some where she can come over the side of it, the top of it a little bit, get that ball dying in that ad-court corner. That is a huge shot in the women's game.
And I think the switch for them with Halbauer over on the forehand side, it's letting her move around. It's letting her stay active, where before when Jackson was on the deuce side of the court, Halbauer, like I said a couple of times, Halbauer really couldn't cheat that far over because it would have been easy for the other team to like sort of dump the ball into her corner and get her in trouble, where I think she can get away with moving around a little bit more here on the deuce side of the court.
That's Ellie Halbauer serving. That's Cindy Berens hitting the return. Jill Jackson's on the far side with the light top and the dark bottom. That's Halbauer in the dress. Dave, in a couple of weeks, we'll be back here in Chicago for the Chicago Charities, first Grand Prix of the year. Lots of stream matches over 3 days.
November 1st to 3rd.
Looking forward to it.
For style points with the spinning forehand. What a shot from Ellie Halbauer.
It's funny, you know, Berens hit that overhead. She kind of was standing there sort of watching. It seemed like she didn't really expect that shot to be drilled right at her.
Well, I think she anticipated that Jackson was going to come over and just throw up a lob.
Shout out to Ann Turner, who's enjoying the action. And she said that when Jill and Ellie have played together in the past, Ellie's always been on the deuce side. So this is nothing new for them, Dave. Thanks, Ann. This would be a big break, Dave, for Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont here.
And it's interesting that I'm sitting watching, and you know, you definitely see a different style of play from Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont from the middle of the second set on. I think they're going a little bit more defensive, so I'm
Middle
kind of
of the first set?
surprised.
Middle of the first set on, you mean?
From the middle of the first set on. You know, so it's kind of interesting that Halbauer and Jackson lost that game. You know, because it looked like Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont weren't as attacking as they were. You know, as they were when they started the match out, in which they had a, I believe, 3-1 lead at one point.
That's a great point, Dade. And you know, it's being able to make the tactical adjustments and have that self-awareness when you're playing. You know, do I need to step it up here and force the action a little bit? And I think you're right. They did force the action more than we're seeing now. Dave, does Rob Laboon have like music in the background when he's up there and you hear him call the score 15 all? I mean, it just has a tempo to it always.
Very
Have you
rhythmic.
noticed?
Very
It is
rhythmic.
rhythmic. Yep. Reminds me of Tim McAvoy in the chair. He's rhythmic when he's up there. Timmy will probably be in the umpire chair at Nationals, hosted by the Cricket Club. We gave a shout out before to MJ Gillette, who passed this past week. And was so proud of her daughter Sue's efforts. Sue's one of the co-chairs of Nationals with Bruce Redpath, Philly Cricket Club. And they're doing a great job preparing for Nationals in March.
Bruce Redpath, longtime paddle enthusiast.
Dave, I saw Sue a couple weeks ago, and they already have every match at Nationals, Dave, in March mapped out, and they know the times. How amazing is that?
That's pretty amazing.
They're recruiting hut commanders from all over the country. If you want to be in Philly for Nationals, you want to be a hut commander, reach out, contact us. I know they're recruiting some hut commanders out of Glens Falls Country Club, Dave.
I'm going to have to see what I'm doing that weekend. Maybe that could be an opportunity for me.
Yeah, you could be a hut commander and an announcer.
Maybe I could ask a few players for their autographs while I'm hut commanding.
How cool would that be for you, Dave? Yeah, you feel like you need some intensity from Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont right now. I feel like I need a little more energy from him.
Right.
But it's
they
hard.
have a game point here to potentially win the second game in a row. And I'll be honest with you, I am kind of scratching my head watching this a little bit because, you know, Halbauer, Jackson have all the momentum, they have all the energy. And, you know, again, now we're starting to just see where Jackson and Halbauer are letting them hang around.
They lead 2 games to 1, second set. Halbauer,
You know, and they should know better than anyone that
Jackson, 4.
just them hanging around in the first set won it for them.
And the thing is, you know, Ann Turner made the comment that this is how they always played as a team before, but that was before Halbauer, in my opinion, got onto the national stage, reaching the finals, and she's such a weapon, and I just feel like right there, Jackson kind of got caught flat-footed. You know, they just dumped the ball there. She made an error on game point, and that's my only concern with her being over there in that ad court. It's just too easy for two righties to not pick on that side, is my point.
Right. Where it was going to be harder for them to pick on Jackson over on the deuce side of the court. It was going to, you know, I almost want to say that, you know, Jackson was sort of at an even playing field with them where, you know, maybe now over on the ad side of the court, you know, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont have a little bit more of an advantage, maybe being in at the net as two righties, getting the ball into that ad side corner.
So that's Jill Jackson serving, and Koopsen-Boucquemont hit the return from that deuce court, out of the ad court, far side. That's Sydney Berens.
Patty, they can't hear us broadcasting out on the court, can they? Because that looked like Berens just, got a little bit of, active and moved forward, put a little pressure on them. And
Yeah,
I think that's how she has to play going forward.
I would like to see that. I agree with you, Dave. I'd like to see her kind of take a little bit more of an initiative or insert herself here a little bit. Force it a tiny bit. Just
Well, I don't think
look to be aggressive, even if you're not. Just look to be a little bit more aggressive.
Right. I think, yes, 100%. I think, it looks like they started getting complacent of just getting the ball back in play.
Dave, shout out to CSM Media, Matt McClure. What a great guy. They're doing a phenomenal job out here with all the live streaming, league matches, tournaments out of Chicago. Wonderful to work with them. And in fact, Matt is not only talented behind the screens, he's got, his voice is something, talk about rhythmic. And he's going to chime in with us in a couple of minutes, Dave, and he's going to finish out this match with you. I'm gonna take a breather.
Were you just talking about me?
Ah, did you just hear that, Matt?
Yeah, my ears were ringing. And it's not just the tinnitus.
Welcome, Matt McClure.
Oh, it's great to hear from both of you. You've been doing a fantastic job with this match. I've actually been courtside with this view that we're looking at right now, just staring wildly into the sun. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's a tough shot. You'll hear a little background noise here from where I'm at in the Medinah hut. It started to really be bumping. So I apologize. I can't edit out as much of the yelling as I would like, but we'll get there.
Are those spectators hydrating by any chance?
They are. They're well hydrated. Some of them have overhydrated, if you can believe it.
Well, this is a great spectator sport. We love that you're all watching this live on the APTA YouTube network. But, if you're anywhere near Medinah, what a beautiful backdrop that you see. And go out, and there's nothing like watching this in person. Beautiful fall afternoon for it. So Dave and Matt, your voices sound so good together that I'm going to drop off here and we'll talk later.
It was great hearing from you,
All right, Patty, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good afternoon. All right, Dave, catch me up. What have you been discussing so far on the stream?
Well, we were just talking about how the first set, Halbauer or Jackson just kind of hung around, and, it seemed like Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont, kind of let them hang around and just got a little complacent with just, keeping the ball in play. And, even towards the end of the first set, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont, made a couple of ill-advised choices, and it allowed Jackson and Halbauer to win the set. And even coming out in the second set, it looked like, Halbauer and Jackson had all the energy and all the momentum. And, Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont were literally just getting the ball back in play, not really applying any pressure, not doing a whole lot. And, I told Patty it has me scratching my head that they're winning this second set 3-1. But we have noticed a little bit more energy and activity out of Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont. And I think that's the style of that probably best suits them. I don't think they want to just sit back there keeping the ball in play. I think they need to be active. They need to be a little bit aggressive. But they need to make good decisions. At the end of the day, we know that this game comes down to making and missing and making good decisions. And, it seems like they're turning it up a little bit now, and it's paying off.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I have the benefit of knowing Sydney Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont quite well, and it's cool to see their game develop. But they've sort of become aggressive counter-punchers when they're playing their best. And so changing speeds, I think, is going to benefit them a little bit and bring in that extra energy. I agree with you that, you know, they don't love to just hang out in the backcourt and keep the ball in play. But between the two of them, I mean, they both got solid screen drives that they like to use, and Sydney in particular has really improved her movement and screen drive off her backhand side over the past couple years, and it's cool to see. So I'm not surprised that they're hanging around, you know, and playing these longer points, but you definitely will notice a transition in pace being, you know, their best friend as their points develop. Oh, we've got a little Corient read here. This is me, isn't it, Dave?
It is, absolutely.
Corient is excited to partner with the APTA because whether as advisors to our members or as members themselves, they are already part of the APTA community. Learn more at Corient.com, the official wealth sponsor of the APTA.
Last week at Montclair, we were able to do an interview with Jenny Sowers from Corient. You know, she told us their involvement and why they were excited to be a part of the APTA and the 2024-2025 tour. And that was a lot of fun to see and talk with Jenny, who was on their tournament committee, as you know, well as being a sponsor with Corient.
Yeah, always cool to see new sponsors come through and solidify themselves in the world of paddle.
And, you know, Matt, and as you said, you were sitting there at Medinah watching the match live. I mean, we're kind of starting to see a little bit of the same trend that went on in the first set. You know, Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont had an opportunity to go up 4-1 in the second set here, and they find themselves back on serve with Ellie Halbauer serving.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's almost like there's these times where they've built up momentum and you'd like to see them step on the gas a little bit more, you know, maybe, and sort of accelerate. And it's kind of like they climb a little bit back into a more neutral position, you know, and that's just one of the toughest things to control in the world of paddle, right? Do I dial back and force them to think about beating us and maybe they'll make some more mistakes, or do I take the momentum I have and try to, you know, really step on the throat? It's a fine line.
Right, and before you said that, I was thinking the exact same thing. That it almost was like, you know, when Halbauer, Jackson are up, they're playing a little too defensive, and then when they're up, they're playing a little too offensive. I think they have to find that mid-ground for all situations, and I think that's going to benefit them more.
Right. And what a cool evolution in the sport where that's something that we're saying now that wouldn't have come up 5 or 7 years ago is you have to be more aggressive. Like the keys used to be don't make any mistakes and do less in order to, you know, control the match. And now with the talent in the game, we get to say stuff like, "Oh no, you got to be more aggressive and hit bigger shots in that situation." But with the tools that are out there, that, you know, can absolutely be the right call.
Matt, I don't know if you know this, but I'm very close with the guy that sort of invented that keep the ball in play mentality.
Oh yeah, who's that?
From 6-7 years ago. I think his name is Drew Broderick.
Has he ever missed a lob?
He hasn't missed too many lobs.
Some say that he's still out there not missing lobs to this day.
He misses a couple now and then, but.
Are you secure in your position being the better looking Broderick? Is that your go-to?
Taller. I tell everyone I'm taller.
Taller?
Yes, I'm taller.
All right. Well, I think you're selling yourself short, honestly. I mean, that was a double or perhaps triple entendre, Dave, just in case you want to review the tape.
All right, so we have a game point here to make it 3-all for Ellie Halbauer serving.
That is a great serve to come up with in that moment.
Game 3-all, second set.
I think, Matt, I think this is a really important game here for Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont to win this game. I think if Halbauer, Jackson win this, things could start going downhill quickly.
Yeah, some would call this the critical seventh game. Not me, but other people that coached me in the past who are much smarter than I am.
And I think it's like, it might be more important for them now than ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the coolest parts of racket sports in general is that you have points that are worth more. And in this particular situation, you've got a game that's sort of worth more than a game, right? Or at least that's what it feels like when you get deep into a second set like this.
Well, it was even like in the first set, Halbauer, Jackson were down 15-40. And then, the game probably went 8-9, maybe 10 deuces edge,
yeah.
back and forth, and they pulled that game out. And like Patty and I both felt, yeah, that was probably worth more than one game.
Yeah, well, I was courtside for that one, and it definitely felt like that whoever took that game was taking the set.
And I want to say that Halbauer Jackson winning that game made the set 4-4 when it could have been 5-3.
Absolutely. And you've invested so much at that point, when you've played 10 deuces, you start to feel like I better walk away with this one or it's wasted effort. Should have just moved on to the next one.
It is kind of almost deflating.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this element actually recently in our Chicago League Night live stream. But, there's an element in tennis where if a set isn't going your way, you might choose to mail it in and reserve the energy, right? And that is not an option in the world of paddle. Everything can turn on a dime and no set is actually over. But, controlling momentum late in a set can be, devastating, or losing control of momentum, I should say.
I think an element of this match that we've also kind of seen a little bit is, again, I think both teams, neither team is taking advantage of having the lead and looking to pull away. Again, I think both teams at different times in each set are letting the other team sort of hang around. Halbauer Jackson were down 1-3. They get it back to 3-all, and they've just missed 2 lobs wide, and now it's 15-40 for Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont to, regain the lead in this second set. And again, like Patty and I talked about it earlier, and I'm sure you'll agree, where, it's easy to sit here and watch it and say what should be going on, but, I think at some point, somebody's got to look to take advantage and gain a little bit of separation, and not let the other team hang around.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And it's so difficult, right? As watching, as commentators, we have the ability to see all the angles and watch points develop and take a deep breath and look at what trends are occurring. But outside, there is a significant sun coming out of both deuce corners, and maybe, you get a little rattled by, overhitting a shot or missing an overhead, and you can climb into a shell a little bit, and rather than thinking, you're kind of surviving. And I think both teams have been, in that situation here. There's several points where it's just been, reactionary instead of dictating play.
Pretty amazing get there.
That's quite the dig.
By Jackson with the over-the-shoulder
the spin
forehand
move.
Return. Break point for Halbauer Jackson. This would give them their 3rd game in a row.
Yeah, this would also be a, getting back from 15-40. Several points in a row. It's a generous call.
Yeah, that looked like that could have been wide.
Do you think that's the toughest ball to call in the game? When somebody's up close to the net and they kind of spike an overhead, at that angle, it just feels like it happens really fast, and maybe it's difficult to make a concise call.
Yeah, it depending on the angle and where you are, and if Jill Jackson was a little bit more to her right, maybe she kind of didn't get a great view of it because, as we know, there are times that, if you take a ball and you could place it near the line, and on one side looking at it, it looks like it's in.
Yep.
But if you look at it from the other angle or on the side view, it's actually out. So it's, and I think for all of these players, everyone's willing to give the benefit of the doubt. Nobody, wants to make a bad call or, not that it's on purpose, but, I think even if it's by accident and it gets overturned, I think they, feel a little bit bad that they made the call and that it happened.
Yeah, for sure. I'll geek out on you for a second. Sometimes if players hit the ball fast enough, depending on where the cameras are at, if you've got 60 FPS, like stuff might happen fast enough where on camera it looks like a ball is in or out depending on how much of the shot gets tracked. So we had this moment recently in a live stream here in Chicago where the entire chat was like, oh my gosh, that ball was clearly in. I can't believe they called it out. And we were sitting right courtside on the line, and we were like, actually, it was out. It was
not close.
Yeah, it just was funny how just like the frames that you caught of the ball were just didn't tell the whole story. I think our next evolution is shot spot, like tennis has. What do you think? We just start, triangulating the position. Players can challenge. You want to go there?
That would be interesting. I don't know if we need a challenge system.
I don't think so either.
Long enough.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. This is a grind. And another long deuce game at 3-all.
Yeah, this is, again, this is kind of, we could have potentially just replayed the first set. And it's very similar.
It's feeling awfully similar.
We don't have to watch this live.
That's tough.
Cheers.
Good backhand there by Berens. And again, I'd like to see them be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, that backhand has
play from
always
the
been.
baseline.
Yeah, that backhand has always been Sydney's shot, and so occasionally there are moments where I'm watching her play, and she's set up such a beautiful point, and in my mind going, oh, here it comes, and then she passes on it, and I'm like, if you're not going to hit that drive, you're never going to hit a drive. But she's gotten so good at being selective in her past couple seasons, not just pulling the trigger randomly. So I can't fault her for that. Lots of transition in this match as well. Both teams being willing to give up the net, depending on what's going on with returns. There's another one out of position, so just staying back is the right call from Koopsen-Boucquemont, although that stayed real low out of the screen.
And there we see, I think, Patty and I were talking about it, just from making it to the finals of Nationals last year, maybe Halbauer with her experience from that. You saw that her and Jackson decided to switch, creating a little activity, maybe forcing Berens and Koopsen-Boucquemont to, move the ball, put it in a place where they probably didn't want to.
Yes. Yeah, I love it
You
when
see
players are willing to, make that transition if for no other reason than to just give a team a different look. Just never let them get too comfortable. Oh, that's such a good series. And they pull it
You know,
out.
and again, and I think the other thing to that is, whatever plan they have, just by Halbauer, Jackson switching sides, now they've got to change the plan on the fly.
Yep. Yeah, and if you had something grooved, you've taken it away, right? If there was
Right.
some specific type of reset overhead that you were using or some attack roller that was, you were finding success with, I bet it changes when those players, flip sides. And as long as, everybody feels comfortable and competent in both corners, which at this level everybody does, then there's not really a downside. So fresh balls coming.
And I think even going back to Jackson and Halbauer switching on the baseline, and I just think for them, Halbauer has to be active. We felt in the beginning of the first set when she was over there on the edge side of the court, and they were hitting all the balls to Jackson. It just felt like she got a little stuck over there, and where now she's, again, she came out in the second set very active,
Yep.
very energetic, and I think she has to be active and trying to insert herself into the match as much as she can.
I totally agree. One of the things we talk about a lot is how you can pressure a team not with your shots, but with your movement.
Right.
And in paddle, it's so easy to be like, well, they're clearly isolating my partner, and so you even shut down your footwork a little bit, and you can't attack when you need to. So a lot of it's just about keeping the engine running, right? Take 3 steps over there, even if you're not intending on hitting the ball, so that everything is, still working and ready.
Right, and worst case scenario, you make them hit a different shot, or you make them hit a slightly tougher shot.
Sure.
But you don't just let them get the ball back. And I said that to Patty earlier on, and I'm a big believer that, if the baseline team doesn't have a little bit of put a fear factor into the net team, it's hard to beat them.
Yes.
If you let the net team get comfortable and grooved, and they don't really, all they have to do is get the ball back, they're a hard team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm such a nightmare to play, because at the baseline, I got no idea where my drive is going, so neither do they. And, they feel the threat.
The element of surprise.
As long as you don't detach anyone's retina, then, you should generally be okay.
Yeah.
We've seen that a lot. The intention is that she's going to stay back, and they're going to let the return go through and then fall from both teams. And I think it's just a factor of, kind of the ebb and flow of a match, but also we're clearly dealing with a little bit of sun, a little bit of glare. But it's just, that's got to be one of the most frustrating mental errors of, I wasn't even going to go to the net and try to volley, and I missed the serve because I
That's
had a little
what Patty and I were
letdown.
talking about earlier, that, with Jackson's serve, because that's when it's happening more often, Halbauer should just stay back at the baseline, because just the fact that she's at the net, I think is actually putting pressure on Jill Jackson, to try to do a little bit more with the serve, or try to protect her a little bit, where, if you're just going to, toss it up and get it in the box, just have Halbauer stay back on the baseline.
Yeah.
I mean, they've won points from the baseline.
Yeah. Yeah, or mix up your patterns in your movement, right? Start back at the baseline and then, decide that you're going to randomly come in if you feel like you hit a great spot or a great serve or something. That's one of the cool things, though, about the sport, and especially teams that play together long enough. They will find ways to be dynamic, and it almost becomes mandatory, at that level, where you can, both, try to go in, or you can both stay back, but also you have all those options in between. What are we going to do in the moment? How are we going to mess with them? Try and get in their head a little bit. And particularly in this moment, it's all about getting in somebody's head and adding some pressure. So 5-3 Halbauer Jackson.
Love 15.
Just a little wide on that one. And this is what you're talking about as well, Dave, is when you get to this point in a set, you know, and you're facing down a game that either keeps you in the match or, you know, loses the match. Now it becomes real hard to step on the gas when you need to, because your whole thought process is just don't make a mistake. And this is one where Halbauer Jackson can step up and accelerate a little bit, like they have started to do with drives like that, and it's going to benefit them.
Well, and it's also interesting because talking early on in the match, you can see that Berens, Koopsen-Boucquemont have a plan. As you know, they were going to make Jackson hit as many balls as possible. At 3-5-15 all, how did Halbauer just hit 2 balls in a row?
Right.
You know, if the plan is for Jill Jackson to beat you,
right.
Well, I think especially now at this stage of the match, you have to let her.
Yeah, you start running out of options as well, because you start to get a little tight, and all of a sudden the court shrinks. So now keeping the ball away from somebody becomes much harder.
Not really sure what happened on that, but it's 30 all here in the
I
second
think they
set.
thought the serve was out, but it was overturned. That is a little bit deep.
All right, so we have match point number 1 here for Halbauer and Jackson. And even I think for the last point of this match and going forward, I would like to see Jackson, go for some more forehands, go for some more backhands. And again, not trying to hit winners, but I think just mixing it up, changing it up, and, not letting the net team, whoever they're playing, get comfortable at the net.
Agreed. Oh.
And even like that, it's,
facing match point.
Kind of got a little bit lucky, but,
yep.
You watch the last 2 points, and it was one missed overhead long, and then that was almost a missed overhead in the net. And again, Jackson's not putting a lot of pressure on them at this point of the match. You shouldn't be trying to win points or force a mistake.
Yeah, that can be tough as well, based on the different levels of pressure, right? And in the moment, is that player actually adding pressure, or is the score what you're facing down? And so that gets real tough. Because
now look, I love those last 2 forehands that Jackson hit. Again, it's not going to let Berens hang off the net and just get ready for another lob coming back.
Yeah,
I like that drive. Just and look, it gets the ball to Halbauer. She hits a forehand, and it's game, set, match.
Closes
for
the door.
Halbauer and Jackson.
Yep, a good match.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think about that second set? I mean, I know you watched the whole match, but, you came in with us. And what did you think? What were some of your takeaways?
I would totally agree. I think that the switch in the backcourt was smart to, kind of keep them off kilter. It seemed like the buildup in the first half of both of those sets was where all the energy was kind of spent and invested. And then whoever walked into that second half of the set with the momentum was kind of just able to hang on to it. So it's a good opportunity for the viewer at home to kind of see, how difficult it is to control momentum in that way, so that you can, feel like you're truly in the lead. As soon as you give that momentum away, or you make a couple of loose errors, it's like you've hit the reset button, and either team can start building again. So ultimately, I thought it was well played on both sides. It wasn't a walkover for sure. Just that 4-all game right there in the first set was the big difference maker, and then 3-all in this last one where you're playing long deuces. It's all head games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, well, Matt, well, thank you for joining us and being part of our live stream today. And that's a wrap from Medinah Cup in Medinah, Illinois. Please stay tuned for the men's semifinal action coming up. And also we have the women's final, which will be played 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern Time. And we look forward to seeing everyone listening to us out there again. And Matt, thank you so much.
Hey, great job, handsome. See you soon.
Thank you.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time